Louisa May Alcott was an American author in the mid-19th century. She wrote the book Little Women and many poems and short stories under the name Flora Fairfield and created the pen name A.M. Bernard. She was born on November 29, 1832 in Germantown, Pennsylvania, and had 3 sisters. As a child, her family suffered financially, causing Louisa not to be able to go to school regularly. So she taught herself reading and writing and eventually turned writing into a pastime and career. She never married or had children, but when one of her sisters died, she adopted her niece. Sadly, Louisa died March 6, 1888 at age 56, but her legacy still lives on today.
Who was Clara Barton? Clara Barton was an independent nurse during the Civil War. She was born on December 25, 1821 in Oxford, Massachusetts. Her full name is Clarissa Barton. While going to Europe to visit, she worked with a relief organization called the International Red Cross, founded in 1881, as well as served as its first president. Clara was nicknamed the Angel of the Battlefield, looking to help the soldiers in any possible way she could. At the start, she collected and distributed supplies among the Union Army. After not feeling useful enough, Clara served as an independent nurse. She also cared for the wounded soldiers. After war, she stuck with the War Department, helping with various aftermaths of the war. On the side, she became a lecturer, sharing the war stories that she experienced. She sadly ended up dying on April 12, 1912, of pneumonia in her own home.
Dolly Madison was born on May 20, 1768. She was the wife of James Madison, the president from 1809 to 1870. Dolly Madison helped define the role of the First Lady, and her successors would follow, including the work with local charities and organize on social issues important to her and overseeing the decoration of the executive mansion to reflect the importance of the presidency.
Amelia Earhart was born July 24, 1897, in Kansas. She disappeared on July 2, 1937. On December 28, 1920, pilot Frank Hawks gave her a ride that would forever change her life. This is a quote by her. By the time I had gotten 200 or 300 feet off the ground, I knew I had to fly. When she was younger, Earhart climbed trees and belly slammed her sled to start going downhill. She hunted rats with a .22 rifle. After graduating from Hyde Park High School in 1915, Hart attended Ogden's, a girls' finishing school in the suburbs of Philadelphia. She left in the middle of her second year to work as a nurse's aide in the military hospital in Canada during World War I. On January 11, 1935, she became the first person to fly solo across the Pacific from Honolulu to Oakland, California. On July 2nd, she was in a storm and was having trouble receiving messages from anyone. At 8:45 a.m., Earhart reported, we are running north and south." Nothing further was ever heard from her.
Sandra Day O'Connor was elected to be the Arizona State Senate. In 1881, Ronald Reagan nominated her to the U.S. Supreme Court. She received unanimous Senate approval and made the history as the first woman justice to serve on the nation's highest court. Sandra retired in 2006 after serving for 24 years.
Rosa Parks was born on February 4th in 1913 in Tuskegee, Alabama. She made large impacts in the efforts for equality for colored people. In 1943, she joined the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. 12 years after, she had one of the biggest events in black equality happen, the Montgomery bus incident in 1955. By refusing to give up her seat, she sparked a massive boycott against Montgomery buses. In 1957, she moved to Detroit, where her brother was, and she continued to write autobiographies and tell her story until she died in 2005.
Coretta Scott King was born April 27, 1927, in Marion, Alabama. Coretta was well known for her singing and violin playing as well as her civil rights activism. She graduated from Lincoln High School as the valedictorian in 1945, and then received her Bachelor in Arts and Music and Education at Anatosh College in Yellow Springs, Ohio in 1951. Coretta met Martin Luther King Jr. at New England Conservatory of Music, and they got married on June 18, 1953, at her family home in Marion, Alabama. Coretta worked side by side with her husband and took part in the Montgomery bus boycott of 1955. Sadly, Coretta suffered from a heart attack in August 2005, and she died less than 6 months later on January 30, 2006, while seeking treatment for a cancer at a clinic at the age of 78.
Claire Booth Luce was born on March 10, 1903 in New York. She was a very versatile person. She was an American playwright, a politician, and a celebrity. She was most known for her hit play The Woman, which had an all-female cast. She died on October 9, 1987 from cancer, but her legacy still lives on.
Margaret Higgins was known and became the first woman to receive the Pulitzer Prize for International Reporting. She was born on September 3, 1920 in Hong Kong and passed away on January 3, 1966 at only 45 years old. The reason for her passing at such a young age was because of a parasite called AMS. Margaret Higgins was an American reporter and a war correspondent. She covered World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. She won a couple of awards such as the Guggenheim Fellowship for Creative Arts and many more. She wrote books as well. She was a very talented writer and an interesting person as well. She was married to Stanley Murr. He was a professor at Harvard, but later they got into a divorce. She had 3 kids, but their firstborn daughter died 5 days later after a premature birth.
Hi, my name is Ashton Bellamy, and for this Women's History Month, I choose Susan B. Anthony. Susan was a woman who believed that everyone should have equal rights no matter your gender. She was also the president of the National American Women's Suffrage Association, which she founded along with Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Susan was born on February 15, 1820, in Adams, Massachusetts. Susan was pretty much born an activist because right when she got born, her parents were already fighting for slavery. And later, they also fought for the production of alcohol because they just wanted to stop it. One day, Susan couldn't say something out of temperance because she was a woman. That made her think that she should fight for women's rights. She did not stop fighting. She kept on fighting and fighting, making more women get their voices heard and help stop the unfairness of gender equality. She kept on fighting and fighting, and she did not fight until she died on March 13th, on 1906. Susan B. Anthony will always be remembered for her leadership and for making many women who weren't getting their voices heard. And that's why for this Women's History Month, I choose Susan B. Anthony.
Nellie Bly was an American journalist who started working at the Pittsburgh Dispatch in 1885. 2 years later, she moved to New York City and started working for the New York World. One of her assignments was spending several days on Blackwell's Island posing as a mental patient. After this, she published a paper on how poorly the patients were being treated. Tragically, on January 27th, 1922, she died from pneumonia in New York City at the age of 57.
Hi, I'm Trevion Lott, and for National Women's History Month, I will be doing Barbara Jordan. Barbara Jordan was a lawyer, an educator, and she was the first African American congresswoman from the Deep South. She was a congresswoman from 1972 to 1978. She also was the first woman to be elected for state senate in Texas. In 1976, she was invited to the White House to discuss her civil rights movement. Well, those were some short facts about Barbara Jordan. Have a nice day and thanks for watching.
Next up, another inspiring woman is Sally Ride. She was the first American woman to fly in space. For fun, she liked to run. She also played tennis, volleyball, and softball. Sally Ride was born May 26, 1951, in California. After high school, she went to Stanford University in California. She earned degrees in physics. NASA began looking for women astronauts in 1977. Sally Ride was a student at the time. She saw an ad in the school newspaper inviting women to apply to the astronaut program. Sally Ride decided to apply for the job. She was one of 6 women picked. On June 18, 1983, Sally Ride became the first American woman to fly in space. She was an astronaut on a space shuttle mission. Her job was to work with a robotic arm. She used the arm to help put out satellites into space. She flew on the space shuttle again in 1984. Ride stopped working for NASA in 1987. She started teaching at the University of California in San Diego. She started looking for ways to help women and girls who wanted to study science and mathematics. She came up with the idea for NASA's EarthCam project. EarthCam lets middle school students take pictures of Earth using a camera on the International Space Station. Students then study the pictures. In 2003, Ride was added to the Astronaut Hall of Fame. The Astronaut Hall of Fame honors astronauts for their hard work. Until her death on July 23, 2012, Ride continued to help students, especially girls, study science and mathematics. She wrote science books and other things for students and teachers. Sally Ride was an influential and empowering woman. Happy Women's History Month.
Harriet Jacobs was an African American writer whose autobiography, Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl, published in 1861. She found work as a nanny and got into contact with abolitionists and feminist reformers. Even in New York, her freedom was in danger until her employer was able to pay off her legal owner. During and immediately after the Civil War, she went to the Union-occupied parts of the South together with her daughter, organizing help and founding 2 schools for fugitive and freed slaves. While Harriet's mother and grandmother were known by their owner's family name of Horniblow, Harriet used the opportunity of the baptism of her children to register Jacobs as their family name.
Julia Ward Howe was born in New York in 1819 and died in Portsmouth, Rhode Island in 1910. Her nickname was the Swamp Fox. Samuel Julie's father was a successful Wall Street banker. His children were overpowering. Julia was an intelligent young lady and an inquisitive child. She educated herself and became a formidable intelligent in a time when women were very limited in their education and vendors.